Um, yeah, I had a mild panic attack, but I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can handle this if she
You
doesn't
could.
join.
You absolutely could.
All right, beautiful. Well, Lynn, I can share my screen since I already have the PowerPoint up, if that works
Sure.
for you. And if you just want to tell me what to do, I will listen to you. So, all right. All right.
Lovely. So anyway, thank you everybody for having me here. I really appreciate this. I love the opportunity to get to talk to chapters, members. Just maybe a little bit of background, Laura, just if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I am actually based in Western Canada, so just north of Calgary. I joined CISV International as staff about 15 months ago. But prior to that, I was the chapter development RECO for the Americas region. So have a lot of experience working within the region. Prior to that, chapter development committee, conference and events committee, parent since 2006, and IPP participant in 2019. So a little bit of everything. But what we're here to talk about today is more about the hospitality point system and how hosting and sending are interrelated. So we'll go through the hospitality point system, talk a little bit about the invitation bank, hosting plans, and then internal distribution. So I do this presentation quite often. This one's slightly different setup for the US, so I'm gonna bring it as we go. But yeah, head off to the next slide if you want. Oh, and I don't have it on the, I could have sent you the PowerPoint, sorry about that. So actually what I will do, Laura, because there's some animation, can I quickly pull up the copy and share my screen? I know it takes another minute.
No problem. Let me
time, but I think that the animation will help. So give me 2 seconds. And again, my apologies.
No problem. And what I'll do is I'll give you the host real quick.
Perfect. And I'm just going to find the version that I had done for you.
I wonder if I can.
Okay, I have it up. So.
Okay, let me make you the host real quick. And
I think I can just share my PowerPoint.
Okay, if you can just share it, let's do that. I'd rather, yep, you are good. Good to go.
Did it work? Okay.
Yep, you are perfect.
And I can still see some of you, and I can see you, Laura, so please wave at me if people have questions, because I can't see
I certainly will. Okay,
everybody. Zoom is different, so I'm gonna.
Yes, everything is different. Yeah, you're used to
WebEx and
right?
Teams. Yeah. Okay. So am I screen sharing or am I sharing PowerPoint?
You should. So right now I see it's not the whole PowerPoint. So it says like if you started, have you started it already?
Oh, okay, so you are seeing the screen, not the actual application. So I am going to.
I think it's.
Okay, so are you now seeing it as an application?
Well, it's the same thing. So can you start, did you start the presentation? Let's see if you could start the presentation, what it looks like.
Okay, there we go.
There we go, we're good.
Hey,
yep.
Zoom 101, perfect. Thank you for your patience. So what we're gonna talk a little bit about Christmas. I know Christmas has just passed, but what I would like to talk about is a little bit about Santa. So in this situation, Santa rewards all the good little girls and boys every time a child helps an old lady across the road. He decides to get them some toys. So I didn't send out a slide in advance, but what I'd like you to do is just grab a rough piece of paper or something like that to write some notes on as we go through this exercise. So we have 6 children. I have updated this PowerPoint since to kind of remove old ladies from people who require assistance. I have made it a little bit less ageist.
Gotcha.
but I hated this one. So we have Rod, who helped 6 people across the road, Jane, who helped 4, Fred, none, Pedro, 2, Maria, 8, Abdul, 0. So what I'd like you to do is make some notes. Based on this information, I'd like you to give some thought. How many toys should Santa give each child? I'll give you a minute to think about that. I see some people writing, some people thinking. Would anyone like to share their thoughts? What would you feel Santa should give each child? Just open it up, unmute yourself.
I can comment then.
Hi,
So,
Fernando.
you know, I was looking at this, and of course, the first thought was the 0. You know, the guys with the 0 helping means 0, but not really. You know, because nevertheless, you know, they still deserve something. So at least for the ones with that they help 0 old ladies, at least I would give them 1.
Okay.
And then I guess from there I will start multiplying, right? So maybe adding, I don't know. But then for Maria, for example, it would seem too many to give her 8 toys. They would be something like I don't know, between 1, 2, 4, and well, maybe 4 for Maria, 1 for the ones with the 0, and then the others 2.
So just kind of leveled it out, but kind of did it proportionate to the numbers. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit proportional, to the numbers.
Okay.
But not leaving anybody out, I would say.
Okay, so everybody got something.
Hi, this is Marjorie speaking. Sorry, I don't have my camera on. I'm from the Philadelphia chapter. I'm completely new to this, so but I have to look at it through a holistic review, and I'm assuming that these are our chapter students. And so if we're looking at it holistically, also considering Maria has 8 because her mom could drive her every day to any program that she wants, while Jane has limited access. So I really need to look at the numbers, but also that holistic layer of what does it mean for each family to participate. So it can't be cut and dry. I agree with Fernando that in regards to equity, especially if Abdul has other things that he has done besides helping old ladies. Maybe he attended our wonderful Cobb Creek's CISV cleanup that he did something else not related to old ladies for CISV, then I'm willing to accept that as well.
Okay, so making some assumptions of what might have driven their ability. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Anybody
Now,
else?
in the end, there's 100% of old ladies helped, which is 20, right? So Maria helped 40%, Pedro's helped 10, Jane 20%, Rod 30, and Fred and Abdul, even though they might have been going to help somebody else, maybe they were also naughty. We don't really know, but so I mean, we could probably say, hey, Santa might go like, okay, if Maria, helped 40% of the old ladies this year, maybe we're gonna give her an X amount of toys, and we're gonna subscribe maybe just a little bit. We're gonna take a little bit from that 40, 10, 20, and 30% from the ones who actually help the old ladies, just a little bit, so we can help Fred and Abdul to incentivize them so that then next year they are better kids and help more ladies. Just give them a little something so that they have something to strive for next year.
Okay, very cool.
This
Anybody
sounds like
else?
a CISV activity, by the way, like a simulation game. I don't know if, but anyway.
Sure. You know what? I'm going to move on, and I'm going to give you a little bit more information.
Okay.
So sometimes Santa receives letters from the children asking for toys. So with this additional information about the requests that each child made, give some thought to how you would distribute toys and whether that changes. So I'll give you a few minutes to give some thought to whether this changes anything for you.
Okay, let's do that.
Just a point of clarification. So this is the children requesting to help the old ladies?
So this is the number of toys. So they've written a letter to Santa, and Rod has said, Santa, I would like 4 toys for Christmas this year.
So this is more of a give me than doing something to earn the toys.
Correct.
Okay.
This is a request. Yeah.
Six. 2.4. 8.
Laura, you might be able to see more faces. So if you see people are done, let me know. I see a couple faces. So
I think we're probably ready.
okay.
Fred.
So is there someone else who'd like to kind of share what their thoughts are having this additional information?
Maybe I can start again since I did change my mind a little bit now.
Okay, so you changed it.
this.
Okay.
Because, like, I mean, I'm looking at this and now, for example, if I start from the left, Rod, I may just leave Rod with the 4, it's fine, but Jane, I will reduce that for sure. And then from there, I have to be kind of like in agreement with what I'm doing with the first 2. For example, Fred, I will still give him something, like but maybe just 1,
Mhm.
Pedro, he asked for a lot. I will just give it to 1. He's just too ambitious. But Maria, she deserves an extra prize. So give her a little bit more, not too much, but just a little bit more. And still, Abdul, and I think it's, I think your name is Pau, right? Mexican Pau, because I'm reading it there. I think on the what you were saying before, the motivation kind of thing. I think Abdul will still deserve something, to get him motivated to be active, right? The next time. I mean, if you leave him to a side, he's gonna get demotivated and he's gonna just, give up on everything. So we need him active.
I think what is very interesting between these 2 situations is that for me tells a little bit about the personality of each of the kids. So Maria, she wants to help and she's not very focused to receive something. Pedro is very focused to receive the gifts. And Abdul, I think it's fair. So didn't help and didn't receive didn't request any toy.
Mhm.
Tells me a little bit about the personality of each one.
How did that impact what you decided to give them or what you decided
I
Santa?
think we need to adjust based a little bit on probably as we need to find a balance between this request and the behavior to help and to support these old ladies. Yes.
Yeah, 1 sec.
I would think that, for example, Maria has been really good, so she deserves everything she asked for. But there's actually left. I mean, but there's actually more toys. Even though she could have asked for more toys, that's all she needed. So maybe give her Maria whatever she wanted, and maybe see if she wants just a bit more. If not, Maria's fine. But for example, then Fred, who doesn't seem to be a really good boyfriend, from what I can see, he asks for a lot, but he doesn't give much. So, so he might be. We might actually say, okay, Fred, we might give you 2, even though you were not that good. Maybe next year, if you're better, you can ask for 4. And like Jane could probably, she helped 4 ladies and she got requested. I mean, we could probably average something like Jane could be 5, Rod could be also 5, somewhere around there. Maria's actually letting go a lot, and somebody should check if Abdul is still alive, and that's it.
Perfect.
This is
I
Marjorie.
see
speaking.
Alessia actually has a
okay,
hand
Elsa.
up.
Hi, sorry, I'm on the phone, so no camera, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So what I was thinking more than anything was try to set a rule, like if they help 2 times, they get 1 gift. If they help every 4 times, so kind of a rule that help you to be more consistent and more like fair between the kids. You never help, you don't get it. It's but pretty much for whatever reason. So it kind of, that's how maybe I see it, but try to be like, have a system that help you be critical and fair with all the situation. That's what I usually look forward to, but very not much Santa-like probably.
Lovely. Thank you. Cecilia.
From the beginning, and sometimes I tend to think of things that are not really in the problem, but I wondered, it wasn't defined if helping old ladies is the only thing that Santa is taking into consideration. So I immediately thought Fred and Abdul are doing something else that's good, maybe volunteering at a pet shelter, or, and I think someone else also spoke about, what else are they doing from a holistic point of view. But the 2 toys that Maria has requested, maybe they're the 2 most difficult, rarest, most expensive toys that are available. And maybe that's all that she should get for, the 8 ladies that she helped. Meanwhile, maybe Pedro knows that Abdul is sick and needs help and is requesting 8 so that he can share it with his friend. So I don't know. I was just like, there is so much, that you can read into it, and if you really look at different situations for every child, there is a whole context that just these 2 data points are not really telling you.
Fair point. Fair point. Marjorie.
I like initiative. So the fact that Pedro's asking for 8 and Jane is asking for 6, that says a lot about their willingness to step out and say, I need this. But going back again to holistic and working with high school age kids, especially understanding that there are some students who don't ask. And so being able to connect and talk to them and see where they're at and what's going on would be helpful to understand, and very similar to Cecilia. And when I said before is that 1 data point of old ladies, but Abdul could be doing a whole bunch of other things that we don't know about with CISV. So if we only look at what you're showing us, then, of course, Maria has 8 and Rod had 6. On the surface, it looks good, but it's always good to dig deep.
Perfect segue. I'm going to add some more information for you. So in these letters, the children also tell Santa a little bit about themselves. So about the child. So Rod, his favorite game is football. Jane studies hard at school. Fred is a year-old and just learning to walk. Pedro lives close to a senior's residence, is what my new slides say from here on in. Sorry, I still cringe every time I read that slide, but I'll get that fixed. Maria loves to read, and Abdul lives next to a dangerous motorway. So I know a lot of you are starting to think about what else might be a factor. So here's a little bit more information. Give some thought to that.
I knew this was a simulation game.
It is CISV. Go figure.
So I want to start again because I'm changing again. I mean, really this changes a lot, right? I mean, and I think this goes down to what the rest of you were saying. Like there can be a lot of factors which we don't know about, and which should have a play on this. And of course, poor Fred, 1 year old and still learning to walk, he's not gonna be able to help old ladies. So let's give him the toys, for him to play and enjoy. But the thing, and Abdul as well, he has a very good excuse, to go out in the dangerous motorway. I think there is no old ladies trying to cross those roads at all. But then Pedro, come on, Pedro is he lives close to an old folks home. I mean, he should be able to find lots of old ladies trying to cross the road to go to the shop, right? So Pedro doesn't have excuses. So I think I will reduce more Pedro and trying to encourage him to be more helpful and maybe proactive. I don't know, but
Okay.
again, in general, I think it's what everybody's saying is that there are factors involved which we might need to understand better before making the decision, right?
Mhm. Did anyone not change their original thinking? I'm just curious. Marjorie? Or was that your hand from
That was
before?
that was my answer, saying I didn't change my original.
Okay. And so I know you were thinking ahead to some of these other possibilities. So did this additional information kind of align with some of the thoughts that you had? Is that why you didn't change it, or?
Correct. So looking at Abdul, looking at lives next to a dangerous motorway. Now you could say, what does that mean? But if you see the word dangerous, that might mean that he had limitations. I don't know, but it kind of understands. But then once again, you have to talk to people. And he might be doing other things that we just don't know about. Pedro living close to a senior citizens home. I was about ready to read your slide as is. A senior citizens home, during the pandemic, a lot of senior citizens closed the door to people having access to seniors due to COVID. So, so I am very much of a person who want to understand. So it's the counselor in me. So I do apologize.
Oh, don't apologize at
Great.
all. This is exactly what this is about, is talking these things through. Any other perspectives? Any different perspectives? Okay, I do have a little bit more information for you. I will say. So they also tell Santa about their brothers and sisters. Paul, I saw your face. So giving some thought to this, that Rod, Jane, and Fred are all part of the Smith family, Pedro and Maria are part of the Santos, and Abdul is an only child. I'm still seeing thinking faces.
I'm not changing now because you're gonna bring me more data.
And
Not-
we know
Lynn,
since the big
you crashed it.
and we know since the beginning that there's not going to be like 100% fair way to hand out the toys. I mean, that's the first thing we got to know. And so it's, trying to put everything into the equation sometimes is complicated.
Did anybody change?
This is
There-
Marjorie.
Yes.
I
Okay.
did change.
Okay.
Rod and Maria actually stepped up a little bit in my, and Abdul still needs to talk to him, but they're in the same family, so they should be able to get in the same car and should have the same support. So for Rod to help 6 old ladies and in the same family and only ask for 2, and then Maria has helped 8 and only asked for 2. Maria and Rod and Abdul's still trying to figure out what's going on with him, really stands out. It says a lot to me in regards to those 2.
Okay. Any last thoughts?
I was just going to say maybe Pedro has a disability. just to continue building upon what Marjorie was saying.
Good point. Good point.
Asking lots of questions. I'm getting that. Absolutely.
Disability, age of the kids. So we know just one kid that is 1 year old. We don't know the age of the other ones.
Okay. If there's no other thoughts, what I'm going to do is how does this pertain to hosting and sending? So this explains all the things that Santa needs to think about, and then how it relates to CISV. So one child who helps one old lady, give them one toy, but really, is that everything? So we gave some thought to how many people were helped, how many toys did the elves actually make. Never really covered just how many were available. Does each child get a toy, or should we give them to the family? Do all the children have the same opportunity? Would the children share if they were the toys they were given? What if they asked for too many? And what do we do if there are toys and they don't want them at all? So yes, some kind of formula. I think someone mentioned a formula or some kind of criteria. Absolutely. So we put all these questions together in the hospitality formula. So as CISV, what we do is we look at, okay, how many participants in programs have been hosted by an NAPA in the past? How many places are available? How many invitations are there? Should points be used to get invitation program that earned them? Do all NAs and PAs have the same opportunities to host? Could an NA choose to host a village, but maybe want to send to a step up? What if members have asked for invitations that they haven't earned? And what do we do with unwanted invitations? Is that kind of making sense? So the hospitality points formula is used to calculate how many round one invitations an NA has earned, or a PA. So for those of you who may not be familiar, we have rounds. So all the invitations that go out in the fall are part of round one, and then we have different formulas that we use after that. It is based on reciprocity. So basically, an NA earns invitations based on a past 3-year hosting history. So what you host in 2023 doesn't impact you in 2024 because you just don't have the time to coordinate that, but 25, 26, 27 impacts invitations that you get. So the calculation is done per NA per program. So a lot of our national associations like yourselves have monthly chapters, but not all do. Some are single chapters. But if you host a village, you earn points towards invitation to a village. So basically it comes down to 1 point per participant per week. But can we make it any more complicated? Of course we can. So these are the 7 steps of the hospitality points formula. So we start with the hosting history. So how many participants have been hosted? So the US has hosted 5 villages, 3 step ups, etc. How many points does that earn? But then we need to do a reality adjustment. So, and I think this was very evident this year, the number of programs that were actually being hosted in 2023 were significantly lower. So if we're kind of hosting 70%, we have to reduce everybody by that 70%, right? So there's a shrink. If there's fewer programs, then everybody gets fewer points towards those invitations. In step 3, we use the program specific points. So points that are earned for village, apply to village requests, so on and so on. Now, with NAs and PAs and the same opportunities to host, we have something called the invitation bank, and I equate this to a tax. So basically every NA or PA that earns points contributes 17% into the invitation bank. So if you want 100 points, 17 points go into an invitation bank. So like we tax you, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about what we do with that in a minute. Using leftover points. So let's say you had 100 village points, but you only actually used 70 of them to get village invitations. The other 30 could be used to apply towards other programs. And this is why, you know, we ask our NAs, you know, what invitations do you need? When we get to round 6, if there's any invitations, if there's not enough points, we still can look at allocating some remaining invitations. And then at the end of the day, there's no more requests. We typically don't have any leftovers. I'll just say demand is usually higher than supply. But those are the 7 steps. So this is all still round 1. Any questions? Okay. So I will mention this slide has not been updated since the program review. So you'll see programs on here like IPP that have been phased out, but it still gives you a representation of what that looks like. So when we think about 1 invitation per person per week, you host a village delegation would cost you 16 points because it's 4 participants for 4 weeks, 16 points. But if you host 10 delegations, you get 160 points.
Okay.
And then this at the bottom indicates, you know, that year 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So hosting in 2023, we don't calculate that in 2024 because we're starting this process typically in June, and we haven't finished the 2023 program year, so we can't really do anything until that year is complete. So there's a bit of a delay there. You get a higher proportion of your points in year 2, and then 30 and 30% in year 3 and 4, respectively. And so this kind of indicates what that would look like in number of invitations.
Can I ask a quick question here? I'm a little bit confused on this. These points that are earned are for the CISV US, or is for
Yes.
each of the?
No, this is for, so right now, everything that Lynn is talking about, after Lynn jumps off the phone, I'll explain the USA. This is trying to give you the big picture of international. So everything we're talking about as a whole, these are, so CISV USA will say to Lynn, like we send a list to Lynn and I want, Lynn, I would like 50 villages. I would like 40 step ups. I would like, that's the mass amounts that we ask for, right? So yeah, this is the through the lens of CISV USA as a whole, yes.
Yeah, so just to add context to that, International's relationship is with the National Association, who's our member. And then our national associations in some cases have relationships with chapters. So we work directly with the National Association. So just a few resources, and again, Laura has these slides so she can share these links. So the hospitality point system is available in our G12. We love our letter number system, which isn't necessarily sequential, and there's a lot of them. I've had the question asked, why is it so complicated? This was actually a motion put forward by the members a number of years ago for a vote. So it was our members, our national associations, that developed the system and voted on it. And so that is why we have the system that we do today. You do get an initial statement of the hospitality points earned. So we started doing this, gosh, I want to say 2018, to be able to share with members, okay, here's how many you requested, here's how many you got, here's where you got from step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And I have examples, or an example in this presentation, so you can see what that looks like, just to help you understand it. I'll explain it there. And then we have this whole spreadsheet, and I think we calculated about 10,000 formulas in this one spreadsheet. That document is available on our website, so this is not a secret. Everybody has access to exactly how every single member got the invitations that they received. And there is a tool called the Hosting Sending Calculator. Again, this is better done on a national level, but to put some scenarios in. So let's say, okay, I'm not getting enough step up invitations. What do I have to host in order to get the number of invitations that I want? So there's some formulas that and a spreadsheet that we have created to kind of help with planning and forecasting what different scenarios look like. Now, I told you I'd tell you a little bit more about the invitation bank. So the invitation bank is only for the 4 camp-based programs. So Village, Step Up Youth Meeting, and Seminar Camp. But it's really important to understand that does not include JCs. Basically, the only way to get JC invitations is by hosting Village. Because you won't get any with cross-program points in a typical year anyway, because those are in very high demand. So it's a regional tool for growth and sustainability. And this should be updated now. That's partially managed by, we have a new system, so it's the member support coordinators and the promoters. So those are the individuals on the regional team that are meant to be in close contact with the NA. So Laura has Karen, Karen understands kind of what the US needs, what they're working on, what their development plans are, so that we can get together as a region. So this invitation bank points stay within the region. So anything that's earned and contributed by the Americas stays within the Americas. And then we redistribute those based upon the need. Again, back to that Abdul situation. So, but we can only assign invitations from the invitation bank for very specific reasons. So developing a new promotional association, we have Uruguay, which just formed in 2020 and sent their first delegations this year, right? They didn't have the opportunity to host because they're brand new. They need that ability to send in order to get to the point where they can host. So that is something that the region sees the benefit in, because it means if Uruguay can host, then there's now more programs, right?
And we, Lynn, we did several years ago, right before the pandemic, we did take advantage of this when we had several new chapters developing who had not hosted yet. So it was Miami and Austin, and so we had several new. So we were able to get some extra ones to be able to allocate to so we have been able to see that as well. So we've seen it at CISV USA as well.
Yeah, and so up until, oh gosh, probably 2017, we were really focused on promotional associations, and we had a shift that just said, you know what, if we want growth, it's often easier to grow with new chapters within an existing NA versus starting a promotional association from scratch. Just that they both have value and that there's opportunities to support in both areas. So that's where, to Laura's point, we were able to support the US with developing chapters, because again, you're trying to get new chapters off the ground. You don't have the opportunity to contribute to your hosting plan, but their success and participation will ultimately contribute to it in the long run, right? So sustainability, this is, again, situations like we supported Algeria. They just could not host it. It wasn't safe to do so, but they were able to send. We had a period of time where we did that for Argentina just because of the situation in the country. So we don't want our members to suffer because there's things beyond their control. So, especially if it's a short-term thing, to be able to provide that stability, allow them to still participate until such time as they can host again. So we have very specific reasons, and those are indicated on that spreadsheet that we share with everybody. So if you wanted to say, hey, why did Canada get invitations from the invitation bank? It would be very specific as to the reasons why. So that's pretty much most about the hospitality points, but I just wanted to touch base quickly on the global hosting plan. And I will say this is something that's definitely under review. So what was happening before we introduced this concept was some years we'd have 40 villages and some years we'd have 20 villages, and some years we'd have 50 villages. And it became really difficult for our members to plan because your revenue, your income is highly attached to your invitations and to varying degrees depending on the member. And so if you don't know how many programs are going to be available and therefore how many invitations you're going to get, it's very hard to plan. It's very hard for international to plan because our income is tied to that as well. So we developed a plan. It was planned for growth based upon our old strategic plan, and we would meet at the regional meetings every April, springtime, and just align and make sure everybody was on plan, looking at, okay, if the Americas region, the plan was to host 20 villages and we only have 18, who can step up and do 2, who can help, maybe we have too many step ups. So it was a negotiation. Coming out of the last 3 years that we've experienced, we're revisiting this plan to decide, okay, what does this look like for getting us out of that post-pandemic period? It's really about rebuilding, not about growth. And so how do we do that? And so that's a huge topic of discussion right now. And this was a little bit about, we put it together about US at the time with the hosting pattern, and it's a horrible slide. I can't even see it myself, but it does kind of indicate, and I think, Laura, this is probably better to share for people to kind of look through after with the context that we provided.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, where the US was hosting 9 villages in 2003, down to 5 in 2013, what does that mean for the participation, right?
Yep.
So I mentioned the initial hospitality points. So this was 2020, okay, great year. And so this was what the US had requested, earned, and the final allocation. So let's take, for example, sorry, it's bigger on this screen, which is why I'm looking this way, step up. So as an NA, the requests came through Laura. I think you collect from the chapters. You had indications, okay, we can fill 78 step ups. You actually only earned 32 based upon your hosting. You did end up with 42. And the reason that you did that is you got some cross-program points you were able to use for 7. And this was a year that we did support through the invitation bank. So you got 3 from the invitation bank. I think another important piece about the invitation bank is, so we take 17%. If as a regional team, we don't need all of those, let's say that equates to 20 invitations. If we don't need them, we don't allocate them. They go back to the person that earned them. So if they're not used, you get them back. So we don't keep them and just figure out, oh, well, I think this person should have it. Yeah, I'll give it there. Like I said, has to be a reason. And yeah, so we don't have to allocate them all. And then I think let me stop for questions a little bit until we get into, okay, now the NA has them, now what?
Yeah.
Any questions? Thoughts? Aha moments?
Just a point of clarification, this is Marjorie speaking.
Okay.
Where it has requested allocation, so are you saying 70 chapters requested to have a village?
So
That's
we look at it
invitation.
holistically. Lori, you want to take that?
Yeah, that's invitations, right? So that means, like, I look at all of CISV USA and I say, how many invitations can we fill? And that's what I'm requesting.
And so we do have some members who request exactly what they need. We have some that request way more than they historically can fill, and we do consider those things, right? There are some countries that we know will always ask for this, and turn them all back. We don't want that happening because that means you get them later in the process and it's harder to fill. So we'd like to try and get as close as possible to what will be filled in round one.
Yep.
One question. I'm looking at the column invitation bank and
Yes.
reading what is written there that is given to help support the growth and sustainability. So where are these points coming from? Exactly.
So that comes out of that tax that we take. So those invitations were part of a pool that was earned by everybody in the region. So you have 14 members in the Americas region. They all earn points and then it's pulled. So some of those points would have been earned by the US just
Okay.
because you also contributed, right? But they're redistributed based upon need.
Okay. I
And
get it,
then
yeah.
returned proportionally. So if the US contributed 100 and we only needed 30, you know, the percentage wise, you would get those.
Yeah. So really, for example, I was looking, for example, at the youth meeting at the bottom, and the points that we were using internally from our own, I would call it bank as well, are the ones from the cross program points, right? The ones that we didn't use for other programs and we use it for youth meeting in this case, for example. Could that be?
Yeah, so that would have been leftovers. So
That's what I was kind of thinking.
sometimes it's a rounding issue where you don't quite have enough for a village, but you have enough for a youth meeting because it doesn't take as many points because it's shorter, fewer people, those kind of scenarios. And that's based on availability. So I think the important piece to remember is, you know, if you really need step-ups, for example, hosting a step-up is your best way to get those points because there might be cross-program points left, but this year there were no cross-program points for step-up. Step-ups were gone in the program-specific round. There just were not any left.
Yep. And so how that works, so it works different at the national level, which I'll talk to you a little bit about, because so all of this feeds into what we do at the national level, but I'll get into that in a minute when Lynn is.
And one last thing, in the last column, sanctions.
Yes.
Where would they be coming from? I mean, like, you have to do something very wrong, right, to get this. This will be a negative, right?
Yeah. So we do have automatic sanctions. So there are automatic sanctions for a few things. So one is not having a chapter for national risk manager in place as of May 1st. We've since implemented the RAG rating, so that we should never get to that point. Right. But prior to that process, if a chapter, for example, didn't have a chapter risk manager, that would count against invitations and we would pull back. Same with sending incorrect age for an individual invitation. So if you send an incorrect age for JC, seminar camp, staff, leader, any individuals, that's an automatic sanction.
Can you also talk about gender? Does gender count as, so it's supposed to be like 2 males, 2 females, whatever it may be. Is there points against that, or people who are binary? Is there?
Yeah, no, there are no automatic sanctions for that. What we look at with delegation invitations in general, so that's age, gender, if it's a delegation, so a village, step up. If it's not a safety concern, you're not going to get an automatic sanction. So automatic sanctions are meant to be because there's some sort of safeguarding or safety issue. Sending a delegation with a leader that's 19, for example, that's considered, and I understand some 19-year-olds are more mature than 21-year-olds, but we have to have a measure, right? We have to have that degree. So for gender, no, there are no automatic sanctions. We are, just so you know, in the process of discussing that. So youth meeting, there are no specified genders. We're looking at the other programs holistically to see, okay, how do we approach that? We want diversity within the program, and that's part of diversity, but it's only part. But there's some logistical concerns that also the hosts have to be aware of. So we try and balance all of that, but age within a delegation or gender within a delegation, we certainly encourage people to try and stay within our rules, because it does help for the balance. Like, you can control your 4, but you can't control all 40 that are there, right? So, but we track it. If there's significant differences, like someone sends a 16-year-old to a village, yeah, no, that would probably result in some red flags and some action that's required. But otherwise, unless there's a real pattern, because again, it does, even if it's not a safety issue, could be an impact. And I know, Marjorie, you asked specifically about gender, and I'm tending towards talking more about age. But we are having a conversation this next week too about, you know, how we approach gender for this year, but also what we want to do long-term with respect to those.
And a holistic conversation is always complicated. So no worries, no worries.
Okay.
Very true. All right.
Anything else? The only other slide I had here was just a little bit about what some of the other multi-chapter NEs in the region do, but whether you want to go into that or not, or is irrelevant.
No, I'd love to just deep dive into the USA real quick. Lynn, I want to be completely respectful of your time. You are welcome to stay, but if you want to jump off and enjoy the rest of your evening, I appreciate you jumping on the call. And if you could send me the other version of this so I can send it out to everyone, I'd appreciate it. But
I can absolutely do that. Thank you. It was lovely to meet you. In most cases, I would absolutely stay, but I think my son might be chewing his arm because he's hungry. So I think maybe I better go and get the family fed.
Very helpful. Thank you so much. Very helpful.
Well, good luck to all of you, and thank you very much for all that you do, because I truly appreciate just how much work it is. Been there, done that. So thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right. Okay, so we are going to move on to, so how, Pao, could you mute? I could hear you in the background. So we're gonna move on to, thank you. I just want to make sure everyone can hear for the recording, how this works with CISV USA, right? So what does this all mean? And how does this fit into CISV USA? So let's talk a little bit about that. So come on, work with me here. There we go. So how does that work? A little bit about the history of how it used to work, programs like, so basically, so now you understand, International gives us these invitations in a lump sum that then comes down to USA, and we have to fairly now distribute that amongst our chapters. So that takes place in the fall. It's the football pool. You know, the hosting history previously, the football pool was based on the very specific program that you hosted, right? So Lynn referred to that. If you hosted a seminar camp every year, you were going to be at the top of the seminar camp pool. If you hosted a village, you were going to be at the top of the village pool. Well, we analyzed what was happening, and we realized we were not giving credit for a lot of things that our chapters were doing. So we weren't giving credit to people who were hosting interchanges, mosaics, who were helping out by hosting our annual conference, the CISV in Motion. We weren't giving anything to hosting national mini camps or regional mini camps. Another part of it is we heard from some chapters where it's really, really, really ridiculously expensive to host. Over $100,000, talking about New York and San Francisco, who said, you know, we want to be a part of this conversation. We want to have equal share to these invitations. So we looked at what our point system was, and we analyzed what Lynn had on that last slide, what Canada does, what International does, and what Brazil, who is the other large NA with chapters, does. and we came up with a revised current hosting point system. So the idea is that we adapted it more towards the more you host, the more points you get, in a very program, but it's not program specific. So the new point system is mostly proportional to the length and size of the program, right? And so, but that when I talk about that, that's for the programs that are camp-based. So that's the village, youth meeting, and step up and seminar. Those are done by the length of the program and the size of the program. So so before International uses their point system is a week, we do it per day. And then we also wanted to make sure that we give points for mosaics and other things. So we kind of put just a blanketed amount, which I'll show you exactly what it is for each of those things. Again, like International, we tallied them based on the past 3 years participation. We don't do the 50, 40, 30 like they do. We're just totaling up the 3 years past participation. We haven't leveled them in the way that they do. So the way that it works is, so in round one, you know how Lynn was referring to round one, our round one for the football pool is in random order by each pool, randomized separately. We are giving everybody this way, every chapter has an opportunity to get first or in the top part of round one. Where the hosting participation points come in is round two. And the reason round two is the way it is ranked by the highest participation points in the past 3 years. And that'll be the same for each of the programs. The reason that we decided it's round two and subsequent rounds for this is because here's where you've put in all the work and you're getting the reward. Round two and subsequent rounds being in the top, number one gets you everyone will get one invitation in round one, where the strategy comes in and making sure that you can get what you want for your chapter. And the subsequent rounds is hosting. So I know it sounds like it's a whole big strategy thing, and it really is. So I'll stop here before I show you more information, but does anyone have any questions on how it works with the USA?
A quick one. This system is new, or it was already in place since the last?
So it is new. We implemented it last year. So we've only had 1 year. So it's 1 year. This is the second year. And so coming out of this year, then we'll do another evaluation to make sure that all the points are fair and, take another hard look at it. But we've gotten really positive feedback based on, people being able to get what they want. And that they are able to get credit for a lot of things. Yes, Cecilia?
Laura, when you say previous 3 program years, is it the same as with International, where, for example, 2022 counts like for 2024 or?
No. Ours are just the total. Yeah, we didn't weight it. We didn't put any percentages on it. It's just the total of the 3 past years.
Okay, and 2022, for example, already counts for 2023.
I'll show you in a minute. It'll be easier for me to show you that one. But does anyone else have any questions before I move on? Okay, you may have more questions after I show you this. Okay, I'm going to pull up the next thing here. So the other thing is, what is this little formula, right? Okay, so here's what it looks like, Cecilia. So so for last year, here's all the points that we calculated. We did calculate 2021 if anyone did anything, because there were somewhat with a couple mosaics that took place. So we did include 2021. So, even though it was a pandemic year, so most likely for, we will still count that, but we'll have to go back a couple of years. So you can kind of see how it tallies up.
Laura,
and-
are you showing another slide? Because I think we are still seeing the
Oh,
current
it says
posting point
pause.
system.
That's weird. Yes, I am. Hold on. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was waiting for it as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on just a second here. Let me see. Let me pull it up again. It didn't like that, huh? Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. Oh, okay. Does everyone see now? Okay, great. Okay,
Yes.
sorry about that. Okay, so you can kind of see all the different points and what they look like. So I always put them in by program so you could easily look up the program number. And then so what does it all mean, right? Here's another. So you saw International had their little spreadsheet similar to this. So, you know, if you were to have, so we had, I will say also, we changed to the 1 point per, we used to have, so this was the first year that we tried to allocate these, and this was a regular program. And as many of you know, there was nothing regular that happened last year because of the pandemic. So, you know, there were delegations that were 8 and, you know, they were shorter programs. So we had to just do the points per person or per day. So we're going to stick with that. It's just going to work, you know, it works really well. But this is if it were to be a full, you know, the full regular program. Over here, you can also see the co-hosting. If you were to international co-host, you'd get half of that. And here's where, remember how she said, oh, there's penalties. And I think, you know, Fernandez pointed that out. This is, guess what? If a chapter incurs these humongous penalties, we're going to have to pass it off to you. International is not going to absorb that. That'll come off of your hosting points. So our big one is obviously the risk manager, but also if you're your treasurer can't get that audit in time, we get penalized by the government, we get penalized by our accountants. It's a big financial piece for us. So we want to make sure that that's in time. But you can also see here your benefits of hosting other things, right? CISV in motion, national mini camp, regional mini camp. And then if you look here, we really want to encourage ongoing local mosaic work, right? So for every mosaic, that's an ongoing program. So that means you've done it more than 1 year in a row. Then you get 4,000 points allocated and 2,000 for, so we're really trying to incentivize work at, you know, doing things at the national level. To Lynn's point, they're looking at things at the international level. We're looking at them at the national level as well, trying to see, you know, if there are going to be a decrease in opportunities at the international level, whatever that may look like. She's explained that our step-ups were decreased this year. Well, what can we do to increase that at the national level, whether it be domestic programming, like we had some last year, and, you know, step ups, or whether, you know, we're really trying to hit mosaics really hard and engage the local local communities and that local impact. So yeah. All right, so now questions.
So I would like to understand a little bit more how we can earn points with Mosaic.
So you have to officially host a mosaic. And what that means is a whole, so I just did a whole thing on that. Your president should have it on the last call about the steps for hosting a mosaic. But what that means is you follow the steps and complete the worksheet. If it's a new mosaic, you will work directly with International to make sure that all the worksheet has all of the qualifications. They will assign you a number. Once that number is assigned, it makes it an official program. And then a month, then you conduct your mosaic. After mosaic is conducted, you have a worksheet that same worksheet needs to be completed. The report section needs to be completed and submitted back to International for final approval. And that wraps up your and makes the mosaic complete. So mosaics can be just like anything. There's all kinds of different opportunities for mosaics and different ways that you can have it. I did put in the, on our call last week, the president's call, when I went through all the mosaic information, and Maureen, do you have my email by chance?
No, I would
Okay.
love.
So everyone can write down my email real quick if you have any questions too. It's executive director at CISV USA.org. And Maureen, I can just forward you that email that I sent out last week. That includes all of the steps for a mosaic, but then it also has a folder where there's examples of different past projects, and then examples by themes, like the current content themes and things like that too. So you could kind of see like all the different ways that all the different mosaics that are happening.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Is that helpful? Okay, good. All right. So again, executive director at CISVUSA.org. If anyone wants to follow up with any
Oh,
questions.
you were super fast. So executive director at CISV.
CISVUSA.org.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Laura, I've got a real quick question about the mosaic as well. Because I had the question for my chapter. We pre-COVID, we were sending it to Daisy because she was our mosaic coordinator, and she would submit it to the international to get our program number. And I know that they posted recently they were looking for a new mosaic coordinator. So are we sending those to you, or still sending them to Daisy, or do we have a new?
It's all in my email that I sent out on Friday. So the
Okay,
steps
perfect. Okay.
and the email that everyone sends it to. I would love to be copied on it if I could, just so I know that it's out there and it's not floating around. Just so I know that it's happening. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure, Shelley. All right, Cecilia.
I see interchanges on the list, but is it confirmed that it's being phased out?
It is, but we still have 2 years left, so we're keeping it on there.
This year and next year.
Yeah, we still have 2 years. Yeah. We'd love to keep it. We fought really hard for that, Cecilia. We fought and fought and fought, and we lost.
That was my first program, so I was so sad to hear.
It was sad. We were all sad, and to be honest, it was a huge income revenue for us, as in like for chapters and for our national association. So it was a big blow to us, but we can't. We are part of international, and we have to follow their lead. And Fernando?
Yeah, so I have a question in regards to the list of programs and points. So we were discussing the other day about the possibility of hosting what is called, and I was new to that, a passport camp. And does that give any points at all, or not?
Passport camp, if you turned it into a mosaic, it would be, but it's not currently. It's not currently on this list. That is correct, Fernando.
All right.
But
thank you.
It really could be a mosaic. I promise you it could.
I never heard about passport camp. What is this?
Passport camp is for younger participants. So they typically do it it's a really good recruiting tool. Usually it's a week-long program, and it's a day camp usually for 8 to 10-year-olds. And it's a great way of making sure that you can kind of feed into that village age. There's definitely so I know the Brandywine Valley does it. Fernando, what chapter are you from again?
Philadelphia, but I think we saw it as well from the New York website. I think it's there listed as well.
Yeah, so New York's is 100% a mosaic. New York's program is a little more intense. That's dedicated for lower income. It's completely free and 100% funded by donors. So that's a little, that's a little different, and it is definitely a mosaic. And it's longer too. It's not. I think it's longer than I'm pretty sure, but yeah. So theirs is a little more intense, but there's variations of it. Yeah.
So I have to say again, it's the first time I hear about the mosaic or mosaic. I don't know exactly which one.
Me too.
But is it so? This gives points, the mosaic one, right?
Yeah.
And where will it fall? This one in the.
What's that?
So I mean, like which? How many points?
So Mosaic, if it's a new one,
It's
it's
there. Okay. I
2,000,
didn't
yeah, and
realize
then
it's there. Sorry. Yeah. Mhm, I
yeah,
can
no,
see.
that's okay. And then ongoing is 4,000. Yeah, it's a great way to get points because you can do multiple ones in a year.
Okay.
So it's a
I
great
will
way,
do
especially for chapters that maybe aren't able to internationally host right now,
that. Okay,
or it's,
thank
you know, in between. Not every chapter hosts every year. So, so if there's any other questions, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about, so everyone saw how it works at the international level. And we talked a little bit at the very end about the hosting plan, and you heard that international is evaluating the hosting plan. We have our own hosting plan. It's called the 10-year hosting plan. It's a very simple Excel sheet, and all it is you tell us what your chapter wants to host over the next 10 years. Well, since the pandemic, it's been a little difficult for everybody to look that far out. So I've been having chapters look at least the 5 years and letting me know what's down the pipeline for you. Are you going to host a couple mosaics, especially international hosting, because we have to be a part. You saw, we have to host a certain amount of villages, a certain amount of step ups as a whole, as our NA, as CISV USA, to be able to get the invitations that we want from international. So I hope it's clear how it all kind of feeds together. So are there any questions about how we feed into international and international feeds into us, and how we get our, basically how we make everything work and how we get our invitations?
Laura, I do have a question exactly on this regard, because before in the presentation on the international side, they were saying that you give them what our chapter needs in terms of program. Like we need you. How do you get that number? You know what I mean?
So we are what they call overhosters. We host the most.
Yeah,
we're the largest NA. So what I do is I give them, I ask for the max amount of invitations for each.
Okay,
allocation.
because I thought I ran short and say I didn't provide that.
No, no. I know that I can fill all the invitations that we can get at the national level. So I ask for everything.
Gotcha.
And that sheet that I send into them also has, like, specific dates, ranges that I know. Those are just things that I know about, the different dates.
How the system work here in the state compared to other country. And the other question is, you mentioned mosaic, but basically mosaic, they don't consider those points. It's more for national, correct?
Oh, international does not. Yes, that's right now. I mean, I think they're looking at everything.
Oh, that's really good.
And so hopefully maybe down the road, they'll take that into consideration as well.
Okay.
I mean, but yes, right now it's just for national. But for us, like for the chapters, it's a benefit because I'll hop back to that program detail, and you can look at this, like the chapters that are able to host like other things. I mean, it really gets you out there.
No, absolutely. No, just I'm happy they are considering changing that and considering mosaic, because I mean, it's a good program.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? So I know that this, like I said, this has only been a couple years since we implemented this. So there's definitely things to maybe add, like Fernando, to your point, maybe there's some other things at the local level that we can consider, like the passport camp. Some people have talked about JB activities and how we might be able to give credit to that. This isn't by any means a perfect system, but it's way better and a lot more fair than it had been previously. So for example, you look at like Columbus, in previous years. So Columbus is it was founded much later than a lot of the other chapters. The previous way that we did the football pool was based on the last time you hosted a program, and then it switched from, well, if you didn't host that program this year, then it was by the date you were founded. So like these chapters were trapped in so like Miami would be in so much trouble, if we still had that same system, and it just wouldn't be fair. So we're trying to be more fair. Again, it's not perfect, and we'll keep looking at it to try and add things. Yeah, does anyone else have any other questions? I know this was a ton of information. Yeah. Okay, well, if no one has any other questions, again, if anyone wants to reach out and ask about anything that we talked about, I can share all of this information with you. I'm also going to put all this information and the recording in my weekly update that I send to the president. So if you want to get that from your chapter president, I'm happy to like forward that to you, or they can forward that to you as well. So again, Executive Director at CISV USA, if you have any questions in the meantime. So, all right. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. All right. I hope you all have a
Thank you.
great
This was
rest of the
helpful.
evening.
Very
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank
All right,
you.
take care.
Thank you. Bye, Laura.